that webinar. And Larry Stanley.
Larry Stanley.
Good
Howdy,
day.
Larry.
Larry, before you jumped on, I was commenting about our deep freeze in Dallas Fort Worth this week. We've been under ice. I think you sent some of that Canadian in Texas. It's what we call a norther. We had a norther that blew in from Canada.
A norther.
No, you're welcome.
Yeah,
you're welcome. I'm happy to share.
Yeah, so I'm actually facing you, Larry. So out my window right here faces east. That faces east. That's where we get all the crazy stuff. Actually, not so east, north.
I'm
all
north. Yeah.
Stuff blows in this way in front of the house. In fact, if I were to show you outside my window, I have a beautiful Japanese maple. It is totally iced over. Every twig has ice on it. Thanks to you. Larry's in Calgary, and this would have been a non-event in Calgary. This would have been any day in the winter, but here it is it's a natural disaster here. Anyways, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. I'm sorry I missed you last week.
Yeah,
we're sorry to miss you.
I know you had some last minute changes, and hope all is well on your end. And just a little context for everybody. Larry, I think we've known each other for a couple decades, maybe.
I was going to say 20 years. Yeah.
Years. And back many years ago, we had a great relationship that's with Dental Practice Management, which is a magazine in Canada that took us to Canada, and we did seminars from coast to coast, from British Columbia all the way to, we've even done some stuff in Nova Scotia. I don't think I've been to St. John's yet, working on that. But Larry, I think we met, and originally met during one of those courses that we did was it Red Deer? Where did we meet?
The very first time I heard you is a good question, because I seek out opportunities to hear you speak. So I've seen you speak at the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry Convention down in San Diego. I brought my team down there. And you are a big part of Alpha Omega, the international dental organization that I'm also a member of. And we brought you to Vancouver to speak at the convention there in December 2004. Yes. When Marcy Schwartzman and I were sort of co-organizers of that particular convention.
Co-marshals of the Alpha Omega.
Co-marshals of the Alpha Omega convention. Next one will be in the end of June in Toronto. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm speaking at that one now too. So that's kind of fun and cool.
Moved it to June. It's no longer over Christmas.
So they declining attendance, and they thought we've got to mix things up and see if we can increase attendance. It's a problem across the board for most organizations, unlike the Crown Council. They said, let's try a travel destination in the summer, and maybe people will bring their families.
I'll do June in Toronto.
Yeah. Me too.
That's better than January in Toronto.
Absolutely. So I've booked an extra week off. I'm going to stay in Toronto and holiday in the area, and that's what I'm going to do. But yeah. And then there was an event in Seattle at the home of I'm now drawing a blank on their name, but the former presidents of the Alpha Omega International Fraternity, and I got to sit beside you, and that's when a real friendship developed, and it's been like that for 20 years. So I'm grateful.
And we've actually had I've had dinner at your house. I can't remember if it was a Shabbat dinner, but I do remember having dinner.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
So, that is one of my favorite things. As you know, I've had many years of association with Alpha Omega, the Jewish dental fraternity, and I know you guys don't let people convert, but there are so many. I love so many of the traditions. Hebrew traditions are just awesome, and Shabbat's one of those. I love that weekly tradition of eating together on Friday night and family and just the whole deal. It's a wonderful tradition. So One thing that of many, many things that I appreciate about Larry Stanley is leadership in
Yes.
so many different areas. For everybody's information, Larry's an amazing leader, has led a world-class practice. Team loves him, and has just done such a beautiful job of modeling how to be a great dentist leader. And I wish we could just give everybody, let everybody just come observe you for a day, Larry, just how you interact with patients, how you interact with your team.
That'd be fun.
It would be. We have to put
Let's do it. Day in the life of Larry. We could do
a spy cam in your office.
Yeah.
Just follow you. But, so you've got, Stu, I know you got some questions for Larry.
Well,
quick. Some tips from the top from Canada.
Yeah, Larry and I met August 2020 for a Crown Council Mentor of the Month, and Larry shared his Golden 10. Obviously, that is still available for anybody on the website. But I thought I asked Larry to maybe share his favorites from the Golden 10, or abbreviated, or however he wanted to share some pearls that he's learned over the years. I mean, one thing I love about Larry, if you go to his site, and I believe Steve said this as well, he says that success is based on the relationships we build. And we can only build relationships in healthcare that are based on trust. And you exemplify that, Larry. Maybe you can share a bit about how you've learned that and what you do to create trust and the relationships in your practice.
Well, thank you. That's a compliment I don't take lightly. And you're right. People trust people they like. We learn that at Crown Council. We learn that through TOPS, the organization that has really had a profoundly positive impact on the practice that I've worked in and ran in the past, and now work in as an associate. By developing trust, we develop a bond with that person, because people, the more you know about the people who you're with, the more they think you know about what you're doing.
And that one time in a seminar, Larry, I can't remember where it was.
Yeah, and that it's powerfully simple and simply powerful. It's just so you need to take the time to get to know people. There was on the Crown Council email network, which I find very valuable. I don't contribute a lot, but every so often something comes up. And there was a talk recently about marketing and spending money on marketing and getting large numbers of new patients and having the practice grow. And some people were getting large numbers of new patients and their practice wasn't growing, because we're very good at measuring how many new patients we get, and we're very bad at measuring how many people leave our practice and why do they leave our practice, because that information gives us a ton of valuable information. I think a Crown Council survey was done many years ago, and they looked at interviewing patients who had left practices, and they said, what was the thing that you noticed about the practice that caused you left? And it wasn't the cleanliness or lack thereof. It wasn't the technology. It wasn't location. It was how the dentist talked to their team and how the team talked to each other. And the patient then said, well, when are they going to talk to me like that if it's not a positive interaction? And I thought that was pretty profound. Paul Homily taught me that we play two roles in our practices. We play the role of provider. That's where we get to do the dentistry. That's where we make our money. Because if we don't get to do dentistry, then we don't have a job. And why are we here? But we won't be allowed to be the provider unless we first play the role of advocate. And they're completely separate roles. And the advocate, you're the guide for the patient. You're the person who advocates for the patient. And once they realize that you're on their side of the benefit program, then they're going to trust you, and everything flows from that. And so how do we do that? And it's just get to know them. And that's where I talk about the Golden 10. If we get to know 8 to 10 things about the person in front of us, then that changes the relationship from a professional one to a personal one. And the place to start is just to know their name. It's amazing how many dentists will walk into an operatory and they don't know the name of the person sitting in front of them. And the sweetest sound we can hear is the sound of our own name. People like to hear their own name. once we get beyond that, the other thing that's really useful is if there's someone's new to the practice, who referred them? Where did they come from? And if you've got a practice that's relationship based, the vast majority of the new patients in your practice are going to be from someone else who's already part of that practice. So look it up and get to know. And, you know, so Alice is in front of you. I see Betty referred you and she's really into quilting. I love the work that she does. Create the triangle of contact between you, the person in front of you, and the referral source, because that also demonstrates to the patient in front of you that you know the referral source, you know something about them. And then when you get beyond that, you want to do things like, do they have a family? Many times people will send one member of a family to check you out. So if you get to know that they've got a family in advance, then you can at some point
send the kids first.
Scout.
Send the kids, see if they survive, and then the parents will come.
Absolutely. And I've got something about the kids too. But if you get to know that, then you can invite the family to become part of the practice too. And most often they like the invitation. The secret to getting more of what we want is just to ask. Yeah. You know, it's so simple. Upgrades in hotels and airline seats, and upgrades in car rentals, better seats in a restaurant. You just got to ask. Sometimes the answer is no, but you'll never get a yes if you don't ask.
So true.
You know, and if it's kids, there's sort of three ranges of kids. If they're under 5, you know, how do you develop a relationship with someone who's that young? So you get to know what's their favorite color, what's their favorite TV show, you know, something about them that connects, that makes them feel important, because even when they're little, they like to feel important. They like to feel like they matter. And you need to talk to the kid, not to the mom and dad who's sitting beside the kid, as if the kid is an object. You know, I'll talk to the kids and then I'll say, I need to talk to your mom or your dad or whoever's with you. And then I'll turn and talk to the mom and dad. So the kid realizes that they're still important. If they're in grade school, what grade are they in? And many of them have extracurricular activities. What are they kind of interested in? Are they into skating or dancing or singing? If they don't do anything out of school, do they play games, video games? You know, what are they interested in? And it's worth taking the time to get to know some kids' TV shows at a superficial level. Get to know some of the video games. You don't have to play them and stuff. Just get to know some of the characters so you connect it, and they think, "Wow, you know this." You know, if they're teenagers, I know in Alberta, when they get into the higher grades, there's a core curriculum, and then they have options. What options are they? What are they interested in? And again, you're showing an interest in that person and what they're interested in. And that allows you to have other conversations that isn't about healthcare, but develops that bond of trust. And then you know, they walk out and they felt like they mattered to you. And they tell their parents that. They says, wow, he treated me so well. And I've got lots of tales, but not enough time today to share all of that, about situations where that's exactly what happened. And I ended up getting whole families of patients because I treated one kid, in this case, a 12-year-old, like he mattered. Because all the other healthcare practitioners who looked after him talked to the parents and never to the kid. He's 12. You know, it's magic, but it's not a secret. And then for adults, you know, what do they do? Are they carpenters? Are they in oil and gas? Are they financial people? You know, find out what it is and have a conversation about what it is that they do, because it's fascinating how many different kinds of careers there are out there, and the things I've learned about the world around us just by talking to the patients in front of me. If their job isn't all that interesting, then what are their hobbies? You know,
but even if their job is interesting, you can ask about their hobby.
Oh yeah. Well, so, yeah, some people though, they say, "Oh, I'm a janitor," and it's just a job, you know.
Don't you just say, Larry, so am I? I'm the janitor of your mouth, man. We're cleaning up the mess.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. I don't think of it that way. It's just, but yes, At a super professional level, you're right. But the key is finding those connections, creating it, and writing it down, because you'll have turnover of your team. That's just the reality. And if you've written down little bits about these people, then the team can review that, and that helps to develop the relationships as well. I'm now working in a multi-dentist facility, and I had to go in and do a checkup on a math professor, and during COVID, and I'd never met him before. But the first thing I did, it says, how's life at the university with everything being shut down, and, in the math world and so on and so forth, and just opened up conversations. And then we got into the dentistry, and I actually made some treatment recommendations, and he trusted me because he thought, boy, this whole office cares about me, because they seem to know things about me that most people don't seem to care or pay attention to. It's a magic. If you develop relationships, it takes away the need for sales.
So true. All right. Cool. So can I give everybody a quick tip here, guys?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share my screen again. And once again, if you go to crowncouncil.com, in the search bar, if you just search the Golden 10, there is Dr. Larry Stanley. And this was the Mentor of the Month program that Stuart mentioned before we got started. And Larry walks through the entire Golden 10, so simple, but yet so often forgotten. And it makes all the difference in the world. Dentistry's what I call an R factor business. It's a relationship business. That is the best model. And Larry, I think you've highlighted today, doesn't matter your practice environment, doesn't matter, too often we'll hear from young dentists or associates say, well, it's not my practice and I can't, but yeah, you do. You can direct the kind of relationships that you build with your patients. You can put this information in their chart. You do have, you are the practitioner, you are the one providing the service and the clinical skills. So you got a lot of influence here to really make a difference with the patients. So love the reminders. And you are a student, Larry. It's awesome. You and I've been hanging around a lot.
Yeah.
Together. And I love to hear the application. So cool. So thank you for joining us today. And again, thank you for the cold weather.
You're most welcome. Absolutely.
We have you to thank for all of that.
It's an absolute pleasure. Happy to oblige.
Thank you, Larry.
We'll try and return the favor this summer. We'll send some the heat back up your way.
Yes, please. I won't complain.
We'll make sure there's plenty of warm weather in Toronto in June for your meeting.
Yes. It can be hot and humid there in June. And I hope that's what happens.
Fantastic. Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry, for joining us. Appreciate you.
Oh, always. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Man, we should have given him an hour.
I love his spirit, man. Every
too.
time I'm with him, he's just he is the best.
And he's that Golden 10. He is speaking in front of dental groups and sharing his lifelong wisdom. So it's fun to catch Larry. He's perfected that little speech.
Has.
So very cool.
Great.
All right, we got one